end of the half. Shanahan's whole first half, it was not Kyle's best game. Now, somebody tweeted me and said, well, you got to give credit to the Cowboys defense. 100% you give credit to the Cowboys defense. Without question, you give credit to the Cowboys defense. But what was going on at the end of the half was pretty confusing. I mean, I understand you don't want to give Dallas the ball back, but you got to go get points. Like, they don't just give themselves to you.
Well, especially because I guess I would somewhat understand it. Honestly, I was confused when Dallas kicked off in the second half because I was like, well, Kyle knew he was getting the ball at a half. That's just what clicked in my mind. No, but it just in my mind, like, what are you doing? Like, why would you waste time when you have consistently been pretty aggressive with Purdy? The other thing is, if you had been at like the 10-yard line, backed up and had to go 90, would have kind of got it. But weren't they close to the 40-yard line? Like, you're right there with an offensive repertoire of dudes everywhere. You got a million plays. Like, I understand the first several drives when they're getting crushed in the run game. It's hard. You're feeling each other out. I have no problem with, like, trying some different shit out, it not working. I'm not even crushing the play calling, even though it clearly was not working. That's football. It's high-level football. It easily could happen next week. It easily could happen in the Super Bowl, and you could win it all. It could easily happen next week, and you lose. Like, it's hard against the best teams with the best players. But situational football, like, you can't control, let's say, like the first couple series. You have this play dialed up, like a backside reverse to Debo or some play to Christian, and it doesn't work. You've prepared for it. I know you've worked all week. Like, you're not calling this play because you think it's not going to work. You've done the work. They've proven like they are a good offensive coaching staff. Not everything's going to work. I'm fine with that, even though it's funny to make fun of it on Twitter. Situational football, though, in that spot to run the clock down and then to call a timeout after like 25 seconds wasted off, I thought was insane. And then ultimately it almost cost them because it put yourself in a predicament where time was not on your side. And then for you to undress the quarterback, and I'm all for like coaching people hard. I've had several people DM me like, hey, I just watched Coach Prime on Amazon Video. Like, he's an old school, like, in guy's ass. Like, he is not some like just like freewheeling it. Like, he's not like it's not. I think a lot of people think he's like a player's coach. Like, he's on guys' ass. Not the easiest guy to play for, I think, in terms of his standard. Kyle's the same way. But Kyle, you created the crazy situation. Like, you put him in the predicament. So didn't it look like he was yelling at him? Like, he was really mad. Like, Kyle,
yes,
you fucked up. Like, that was on Kyle to call the timeout and waste 25 seconds. Borderline inexcusable. And I know you've always been someone, and I agree that like clock management is clearly more difficult than I think we all think it is on the sideline when we're sitting on our couch with whatever food we ordered from DoorDash or DiGiorno pizza, fucking cheese spilling all over us with a soda, Gatorade, or beer. But like, that situation was pretty, like, he knew what he was doing, and I thought it was crazy. So did everyone. I mean, it was
played with fire. He played with fire is what he did, right? He played with fire because he didn't want Dallas to get the ball back. 56 seconds, I think, basically they run a play and they call a timeout with 30 seconds. So it was 20, like you said, 25 seconds, basically. They let off the clock, but then they get the first down on 3rd and 1.
They always do, guy. They always do.
I know. It was a lot of people were joking, and it was appropriate. It was kind of the Garoppolo play sheet. Did Greg Olsen say during the game that Kyle told him he was going to be conservative today?
I didn't hear that. No.
Yeah. I thought they spent a lot of time relying, and if you're new here, like I think Kyle Shanahan is pretty well. There's no debate anymore about whether Kyle Shanahan's a good football coach or not. But I did think for playing a fast defense, they spent a lot of time relying on misdirection and trying to get things going side to side, where the horizontal game it's not going to work as well against a team that's really fast. And Dallas had some stuff done. And again, part of it's Dan Quinn's really good and they got good players and all that. And I think the other part, if you're going to give Shanahan the benefit of the doubt on just kind of the big picture play calling, they really are. It's such a cliche, but with them, it really is a 4-quarter game. Like, they're going to run. And I had no problem when McCaffrey was picking up 2 yards, 2.2, whatever it was. They ran for 27 yards as a team in the first half. I had no problem with them continuing to run the football because more often than not with them, it bears out that it will work over the course of 4 quarters if it's going to be this type of game. I thought when the offense did really get in a flow before that, they get the ball after a couple of drives if nobody's scoring, and they got in a flow. And to me, it was just because they popped the run, popped the run, popped the run, 5 yards, 5 yards. Now they hit some throws, and Kittle made the great catch, but they just really committed to the straight ahead run game without a lot of Debo backfield bubbles and horizontal plays that I thought were a little misguided because of how fast Dallas
Well,
was.
it works. It works as long as the game's close, right? As long as you're not down 10 or you're not
Right.
down 7.
I don't know. You can't waste a half against Philly next week. Probably.
No. And to me, it worked in this game because they were up 16-12. Or they were up a touchdown. Dallas kicks a field goal, and then they go on a 13-play, 64-yard drive that almost 8 minutes. And they
that
get
was
the
when
ball.
It was tied at 9-9.
No, this is in the fourth quarter. So it's 9-9. Then the 49ers go on a touchdown drive after a punt.
Right.
And they go up 16-9. Then Dallas gets the ball back. They go and they kick a field goal. And they're up 4 points. So the 49ers get the ball back up 4 points with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They go on a 13-play drive and they kick a field goal with 3 minutes left in the game. And that was where they just started imposing their will and running down their throat.
See, I thought they started doing it on that.
I agree.
On the first drive you talked about, because that was that was a first down run. Kittle makes the catch. Then it's McCaffrey through traffic. McCaffrey a run. McCaffrey 7 yards. Mitchell a run. Mitchell a run. I mean, it's 5 straight runs.
So you wear them down in the second half in a tight game. And this game was tight, and they did, and the Cowboys couldn't score. So obviously in this individual game, it worked. And, I don't want to say they tapped out. They ran out of gas, right? Short rest, 49ers imposing their will. It's just not many teams. We talked about it this week. Like, is it a good or a bad thing that the Cowboys pass rushed 66 times? And I think you said, well, not every pass rush is equal, right? There are some pass rushes like in a 19-19 game or a 7-7 game in the third quarter. You're giving it your all. There's another one.
Gas today.
Was exhausted because every pass rush in this game matters, right? So you may only drop back to throw 30 times, but you're like, my 30 reps would have been crazier than a blowout where I'm repping 47. So I don't think it did. But I think the Cowboys, just from they had been on the road a lot. We had talked about that leading up this week. That game last week was weird. The travel that they wore down, and their offense ultimately let them down because the defense today came to win a fucking playoff game, right? The Dallas Cowboys defense showed up to win a playoff game and played winning football just like the Niners did. The Niners offense played winning football in the sense that they did what they had to do. They executed, and they did not make a mistake. The Cowboys' $40 million quarterback did not do the same. He fucked up. And you could argue some of their players did too, right? I mean, Dalton Schultz, just the details weren't there. They had an injury that came against them. But, I think, Kyle, this is a classic old school game. It was going to be ugly, going to be a defensive battle. It kind of was last year, right? Even though the Niners were up several scores, it's not like 30-3. It was 23-7. Well, all of a sudden, you're just a pick 6 away from it being a tight game, and that's essentially what happens. So, I don't love Kyle at the end of the half, but it's hard to, totally freak out because it didn't cost him. But I do think next week, it was last night, Brian Daboll, early in that game, went for it on a short 4th down. And I saw a lot of people like, what the hell is he doing? It's like, he's playing an all-star team here. He knows, I'm going to have to score to even have a snowball's chance in hell. I don't know if Kyle's going to have to play quite like that, but he's going to have a different mindset to me going on the road against a potent team than he did against this Cowboy team that is like the poor man's version of his own team, right? Defense, make it ugly, and even though the Niners have been scoring a lot, Cowboys are cool trying to win 24-17.
Yeah, Cowboys got at least how many guys on their defense would start for the 49ers? I mean, they would start a line.
Diggs would. A lot of D linemen would. Linebackers wouldn't, but Van Der Esch would play.
Van Der Esch wouldn't start over Alshire, Greenlaw.
Did you hear on the broadcast that Dan Quinn thought he was the most improved guy from last year to this year?
I didn't hear him say that about Van Der Esch.
He thought Van Der Esch was their most improved guy on defense. And watching the night, you're like, God damn, this guy's flying around hitting people.
Yeah. I think the good news, like we'll see. We'll see what Dallas does if Sean Payton.
Do you think Parsons would start over Ebukam?
I don't know. Ebukam had a big sack.
No, he did.
We'll see what Jerry Jones does. I think he should consider changing coaches, especially if he can get Sean Payton. Then he absolutely should change coaches. I think the one thing, 2 years in a row now, and if they lose Dan Quinn, obviously that's an L for them. But Kyle Shanahan is better than Mike McCarthy. I mean, that much we know. So I'm confident in saying that. I don't think I'm out on a limb saying anything that nobody else would agree with, but that's, just another you've gone toe to toe with them twice. You've played kind of the same game with them twice. You've beaten them twice. Now you lose D'Amico too, maybe. We'll see. D'Amico could take a job tomorrow.
But you don't think Mike McCarthy's getting fired, do you?
I think Mike McCarthy should get fired if they can hire Sean Payton. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's not. I don't think it's happening.
Well, then that's good for the 49ers. My point is ultimately, like, you have a better coach than them.